Chaos in Kiev, unrest in Ukraine reaching volatile levels, clashes with protests, and police have left at least 10 people dead. Right now, you are looking at live pictures from Kiev's Independence Square, the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine calling the situation on the ground unpredictable and telling Americans to stay indoors to avoid the protests. Some of the images coming out from the protests are extremely disturbing, like this one of a man engulfed in flames. ABC's Kirat Radia has been following all this from Moscow and joins us now with more. Kirat, the deadline has come and gone. We have seen the fires and that extreme video coming out of there. Who has control on the ground right now?
That's very hard to tell right now. As you said, there was a deadline that was set by the riot police saying that by 6 o'clock local time that people had to clear out of the square. That obviously did not happen. There are still thousands of people in there right now. What we do know is that the square is surrounded by riot police that have been trying to make their way in. They've been stopped by, as you can see from some of the dramatic video, volleys of fireworks and Molotov cocktails, and now giant bonfires that are blocking the entrance.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing the images now of those live pictures, some of them earlier showing flames in and around there, and quite a few people left there, which many of them look like those protesters. We've heard about the death toll, as many as 10. What are you hearing on your end?
Right, well, that number has been creeping up all day long, as you can imagine. Earlier today, there were some clashes when a group of rioters tried to make their way towards the Parliament building, and there were several people killed at that time. The numbers have gone up throughout the day. We should also add that there are reports of at least 3 policemen also killed.
You know, we've been watching these protests over the course of the last few months. Break this down for us, you know, where it started and where we are today.
Right, well, this has been going on since late November when the president, who was aligned with the Russian government, decided to back away from a trade deal with the European Union in favor of pursuing an alliance with Russia. And that really set off protests. These people have been in the square since then. They've really occupied this since late November. And it started off as this major backlash against the idea that Ukraine would be allied with Russia instead of the European Union. It's really evolved since then. It's not just about that. It's really about the future of this country, whether Ukraine will be a European country or one that will look to its Soviet roots in Moscow.
Kirat, with that said, what are you hearing out of Moscow or Russia? What is their official or non-official comment?
Right. Well, so far they have condemned the violence that's gone on, but they are blaming the West for inciting violence. They're not just the United States, but Europe as well.
And give me an idea, what about here in the U.S.? Have we heard anything from anyone since this has started to boil over?
Yeah, Secretary of State John Kerry has issued his own statement, of course, condemning the violence there. But, you know, this has been a tough situation for the United States going back some time now. The Europeans were trying to put this all back together, and they have proved so far that they can't do it. The U.S. has been trying to broker some deals here and there, but they've fallen through so far.
Yeah, and some of those deals, we heard that the Ukrainian government had promised some reforms. There's also been, you know, the opposition parties that did not accept that. You know, what went wrong in that case, and where do we go from here?
Right. Well, as you mentioned just a few weeks ago, there was an offer on the table from the government to bring 3 of the, or several, I should say, of the opposition leaders into the government. That fell through. Ultimately, those leaders decided that they would stop at nothing short of President Viktor Yanukovych stepping down.
And is that exactly what the opposition wants? Is there anything else that they're demanding?
Right, well, that's the big thing right now. Today there was an effort in the parliament to try and limit President Yanukovych's powers to go back to an earlier version of the Constitution, but that was eventually stymied, and it really was one of the things that led to some of the violence that you're seeing today, a lot of the frustration that was expressed on the streets. And
Kirat, of course, we're watching all of this play out as the Winter Games are also still underway in Sochi. What do you think the impact of that will be as we move forward?
Well, it's certainly gotten the attention away from Sochi right now. I mean, if you look at those pictures, it is the most dramatic thing going on in the region right now, you know, Olympics or not. And certainly this is something that, you know, the Russians have staked a lot in Ukraine right now. They've put billions of dollars on the line to try to bail out the Ukrainian government, and this is not something that they want to distract away from the Olympics, which of course President Putin wants to be his time to shine.
ABC's Kirat Radia joining us from Moscow. Thank you very much. And again, watching live images from Kiev as these protests and, of course, the deadline has come and gone. You can get a complete recap right here on abcnews.com. For now, I'm Michelle Franzen in New York with this ABC News Digital Special Report.